Oops.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to our 30-minute Thursday, which is Library Reads, Edelweiss, and NetGalley. And this is Jamie Machik with the NetGalley Federated Library System. And presenting today, we have Jean Anderson with the South Central Library System. So because we only have 30 minutes, yep, we see your screen, Jean. You're all good.
Okay. Well, I lost something and it scared me for a second. I'm good.
You're all good.
I'm good.
So whenever you're ready, Jean, go right ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Jamie. This is, again, Jean Anderson at the South Central Library System. I have my webcam on, but feel free to turn it off if you don't want to see it. In fact, I'm going to hide mine so I don't see it. It distracts me just a teeny bit. So today I'm here to talk about LibraryReads, Edelweiss, and NetGalley, and not exactly in that order. When I was thinking about it, when I was writing up the presentation, I realized I should have called it NetGalley, Edelweiss, and LibraryReads because that's where I'm going to start, is with NetGalley. So NetGalley is a division of something called Firebrand Technologies, which is a provider of publishing technologies and solutions. I'm sure we all know what they do. But what they did for readers and for authors is get the author's books in the hands of readers, bloggers, journalists much easier than it used to be. NetGalley started back in 2008, and I joined in May of 2012, and they now have over 61,000 members. It's free for librarians, booksellers, book bloggers, journalists, etc. And publishers are the ones who support this. They pay a fee to list their titles on NetGalley. And there are lots of small publishers and self-published authors on NetGalley, and what I found is that some of the self-published authors join like an author co-op so that they can list their titles more economically than trying to do it on their own. And they pay like a marketing fee or something like that, and there's different levels for the publishers and how NetGalley markets it out to its readers. So I just have a couple of things here for you. They are on Twitter, Facebook, and NetGalley, and I'll send these slides to Jamie afterwards, so you can use the links if you like. But I am going to go here because I really want to show you this live today. So they have, like I said, on Twitter, they have an email that a weekly newsletter that I get from them, and let me just show you how you register. So here's how it works. You can join for free. I'm just going to show you the registration site. I'm already a member, so you can see my stuff there. You'll create a login and a password, whatever you want to use. Include your email, your country. NetGalley is international, so some of the publishers will limit their distribution only to Australia, only to the UK, or only to the US. So that's important to look at when we look at some of the titles. And you'll want to make sure that you select librarian here, and I'll show you why in just a minute, but that'll help you get more titles. So I'm going to sign in so you can see that. We'll come back to my dashboard in a minute, but once you get registered, you'll want to go in and complete your profile. And this is my profile, and it tells you what other sites I have. So I use LibraryThing, so I have a list of all the books that I've read there and a few reviews. This is my Twitter account, so I link my Twitter account to here so that publishers can go out and see if I've talked about books on my Twitter feed. My contact information tells you my username. And then over here, this is probably the most important part, is your biography. You'll want to write out what you do. If you're a young adult librarian, your adult services, you do reader's advisory, whatever it is. This is what publishers see when you request an item, and this is what they'll be making their decision based on, is what you put in here. And there are a variety of categories that you can say that you are interested in. And I believe when I selected a newsletter, I get a mystery and thriller newsletter every week, and one of which I'll show you today. If you happen to be a member of ALA, go ahead and put that member number in here. Publishers do look at this, and they are more likely to approve you if you are an ALA member. So that's just another little perk of being a member of ALA. Okay, so I'm going to go back here to my dashboard. I find their interface a little bit confusing, so if I go back and forth, that's why. It's because I still get confused trying to find things on here. So we are going to look for a title to request. So you click on Find Titles. And some interesting ones there. That's different than just 20 minutes ago when I was on here. What I wanted to show you was this new one. This just showed up in my email today, this new Tess Gerritsen book that comes out at the end of December. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that one. And this is what I would do to request it. So I'm just going to click on Request. And that's all that happens. Behind the scenes, that request is now being sent to Ballantine Books, and they will email me back and let me know if I'm accepted or not. So let me go back to my dashboard, because you can see now here are my pending requests. This is the book that I just requested. And Meet Your Baker, I was practicing this the other day, and I couldn't remember what happened when I clicked on Submit Request. And they approved it. So, so now I have this book to read as well. Okay. One other thing I wanted to show you down here is when I wrote this up just the other day, I was not automatically approved for any publishers. When I submitted the request for Meet Your Baker by St. Martin's Press, I got 2 emails from them, one of which said I was approved, and then they automatically approved me for all of their titles. So now I can go in and find any St. Martin's Press book and automatically read them, which is kind of cool. So I had to change my script quick today. So let me just make sure. Oh, here. So up to shelf. Okay. So this is my shelf. So these are where you can organize your titles, and I want to show you all of the things that I've received or tried to get from, from NetGalley. So these are the all the titles that I've requested or looked at from NetGalley, all the way back to my first one, which was this one back in 2012. I read over the summer Bones Never Lie, and this is my feedback, and I can show you where I submitted those as well. And then this is the newest one that I have. So after I read it, I'll come back here and add my feedback onto this book. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Okay, make sure you can hear me. Let me go back to my dashboard. And one of the things I wanted to explain was invitation, because I had to look up what this meant because I didn't remember getting an invitation. But an invitation is something that comes directly from a publisher in an email or a newsletter with an auto-approved link to a specific title. So if you were to get an email from whatever publisher saying, because you're a librarian, you're automatically approved to receive this title. So one of the books that I read must have been an invitation. I don't remember which one. Okay, so I have a couple of sample emails to show you. So here is an email that I got from NetGalley about the Meet Your Baker. So once you submit the request, usually within a day or two, you'll get an email back from the publisher saying, yes, you're approved, or no, you're not. And I have been declined on a couple of books from NetGalley. And then shortly after I got this email, I got this one from St. Martin's Press, which was really cool because I didn't even ask to be automatically approved. So they looked at my profile and decided I was okay, and now I have access to any of their books, which is kind of cool. So once I, whoops, wrong thing, activity. So once I've requested a book and have approval, they'll send me a link, and when I go to that book, now I can download the title, and then here is where I would go and give title feedback. And I'll talk a little bit more about this with Edelweiss, but I think one of the most important things that you can do when you receive an ARC, an advanced review copy from the publisher, is to give them some sort of feedback, whether it's a link to your blog or whatever, wherever you happen to review it. I think it's really important to give that feedback back to the publisher. If you don't, they're less likely to approve you in the future. So for example, here is what I said about Lorna Landvik's book. I gave it 4 stars. I love Lorna Landvik's books. And they always ask you some additional questions. Is your library likely to purchase this title? I said yes, because most likely libraries in my system will be purchasing it. And I will definitely talk it up in my personal book club, so I said yes for that as well. Okay. Okay, I'm just checking my notes to make, oh, okay, I'm going to show you one slide here, which is this one. So I mentioned I read all of, well, actually I don't know that I mentioned, when I download them onto my e-reader. So I have an iPad mini, which I have right here with me today, and I can show you the books on it, but I did take some screenshots. You can read them either in Overdrive or in the Bluefire app. And Overdrive works for all of the EPUB titles, and Bluefire works for EPUB and PDF. And depending on the publisher, depending on how far in advance the book comes, it's either going to be an EPUB or PDF. And several of these, I think these white covered ones, are PDF titles, so then they only work in Bluefire. These apps are both free from whatever app store you use for your particular device, and they also work on Kindles, and there are instructions on the NetGalley site for whichever device you use. Oops. Okay, back here. Okay. This is, I just wanted to show you a sample of one of the emails that I get from, I think I get these weekly. They call them Feed Your Reader, and you can sign up to receive these from NetGalley. So that's one of the ways that they let you know that books are available. And the other way is this one. I get a mystery and thriller roundup, which is where I saw the Tess Gerritsen book. And this one, you can only request it for a certain amount of time. This one's till October 27th. And I did double check, and this one I did not see available in Edelweiss, which I'm going to show you next. So are there any questions about NetGalley before I go into Edelweiss?
I'm not seeing any, Jean, but like I just said, if any of you have questions
Okay.
as we go along, just type them in the question box and we'll get them to Jean.
Thanks, Jamie. And if there's anybody who uses NetGalley or Edelweiss or anything like that, let me know, because if you have best practices or tips that you'd like to share, I'd love to hear them.
Yes, pass along tips as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now we go into Edelweiss. And I have to admit, I'm a little biased. I like Edelweiss a lot. So, oops, let me get back to my Edelweiss slide here. So Edelweiss is a service. It's part of Above the Tree Line. And Above the Tree Line, I have to read this because I had to look it up, is a software company that started in Ann Arbor, Michigan in 2001. And they started to help independent bookstores with their sales and inventory analysis, analytics kind of thing. And in 2008, they created Edelweiss, which is an online catalog system. Basically, it's a catalog of catalogs. And if you listened or saw the recording of the Scouting Out New Books program that I did in April of 2013, I talked a lot about Edelweiss and how you can use it for collection development. But today, what I'm going to talk about is the review copies and LibraryReads in conjunction with it. So Edelweiss, again, is just like NetGalley. It's free for booksellers, librarians and reviewers, journalists and things like that. And publishers pay to put their catalogs in or to get access to have digital review copies available. Okay, so for this one, I've also, whoops, sorry about that. They also have about 61,000 industry professionals, so that covers the range. It's librarians, booksellers, and journalists. They are also on Twitter and Facebook, just like NetGalley is. I've also been a member of this since March of 2012, and let me show you the difference. Okay, and I have, I'll show you my archive on it in just a second, but I've downloaded and read over 53 titles with Edelweiss versus the 5 or 6 that I've done with NetGalley. So, okay, so I'm going to just show you how to get started. So what you want to do is register for an account. They ask you a few more questions up front here as well, but when you get down here to library, you'll want to do public library and then whatever your position is within the library, whatever you happen to do. And it can be other. It doesn't have to be librarian or circ staff or whatever. You'll need to put your library information there, create whatever, add your email and password, and then this is another important part is where you can add your Twitter information, your Facebook or your library Facebook page, anything else that you want to add in here. And if you do have your own blog or use Goodreads, you can also put that information here.
Jean?
Yes?
What's the advantage of adding the social media stuff to a page like this?
Some publishers, and especially if you, for example, if you were like for MadReads, in Madison they have a blog called MadReads, and so if I were a librarian there and I reviewed books for MadReads, I would put that there as well so that the publishers could see that not only am I going to talk about it in my library, I might write about it on this blog. And then when you write a review, you can just link to the blog instead of having to copy and paste and write it all out in Edelweiss or in NetGalley.
So you'd want to put your library Facebook page or your library Twitter account?
It kind of depends. If you're, for me, I did my personal one because I don't do these for work. If I were a librarian doing Reader's Advisory and I had a blog for the library, I would put that in there. So I tend to use this more for my personal reading, more so than because I'm not actually in a public library anymore. So it kind of depends on your situation.
Okay, great.
Okay. So I'm going to go back, maybe, and log in when it comes back. You can do it. There it is. Sorry, everything got kind of slow. Okay, so now I'm going to log in so you can see my my information. I think I've been using Edelweiss a bit longer, so I find it somewhat easier to use than NetGalley. And I've been whitelisted for Macmillan Press, which means like the automatic approval on NetGalley, I'm automatically approved for any of their titles, which is really cool. And this is being really slow, sorry. And my colleague Sean Brummer is whitelisted for many more publishers. And Edelweiss and NetGalley does have a wide range of publishers that they cover and subjects and ages. So it's not just limited to adult books, or adult books. They cover young adult and children's as well. Okay. You can do it. There we go. Oh, yay. Okay. Sorry, it's so slow. And I left LibraryReads last after Edelweiss because it goes right in from one to the other. So I've logged in. Let me go to my, if you go to admin, that's where your account information lives. Hopefully it won't take that long to get there. Okay. You can do it. So here's my profile. Yes.
I like how you're encouraging the
Jamie,
pages.
did you have something?
I just said I like how you're encouraging the pages.
I talked. I do that all the time. It's like, come on, you can do it. I don't know. It seems to help sometimes, or at least make me feel better.
I'll keep that in mind.
I don't know that it actually works, but it makes me feel better. So this is where you would put in any new information, anything you need to change. But there is one other place when I request a title that I'll show you that's really important. So to get into the review copies, I'm going to click on Review Copies tab, and hopefully it's not going to take forever, but you can do it. Yay. Okay. So they have right now 3,657 titles, and I don't know about you, but I really don't want to browse through that many titles. You can change the sorting, so you can have it by publication date or the date added to the site. But what I do is I get a weekly email from them that a weekly update, and one of the things they have in here is a list of all, I'm going to, scroll down just a little bit here. They have new catalogs, but here are all the new review copies that were added within the last week. So this is a much easier list to go through than going through all 3,600 and whatever titles. So I tend to go through this once a week and see if there's anything I'm interested in, or if I need a new book to read, I'll go through this. They do also have where you can refine it by publication date or by age and subject and things like that, but they are kind of somewhat cumbersome, so I tend to go through my email. So once you're in review copies, then you have a couple of options here, downloads and requests. So get on to my next page. If I click on requests, yay, you will see everything that I've requested recently. So I requested a bunch the other day, and I've been approved for all of them but one. You'll see this one still has a question mark, and the question mark means that it's pending. So this has been submitted to the publisher, but the publisher hasn't said that yes, you can have access, or no, you can't at this point. And you'll notice I've been approved for pretty much everything that I've selected and haven't been declined yet. We'll see, that may change. And then if I click on downloads, you can do it. Okay, yay, it's going faster. This is everything that I've requested and read since I started back in March of 2012. So these top ones are my most current ones, and I'm reading Let Me Be Frank With You right now. So once I'm done, I'll write a review of it. And I'll come back and show you about writing a review in just a minute. But what I wanted to show you is that everything else is here. And this is another thing with, like NetGalley, you want to submit some sort of feedback to the publisher. So everything is here, and this is where you would go in to write your review. Yes?
Jean?
Yes?
Do they just do ebooks or also print, paper books?
When you request them here, it's just ebooks as far as I know. I've never requested a print galley, but so you can contact the publishers directly sometimes and get print copies. Norton, for some reason, sends me all sorts of print advanced copies, so you can contact the publishers directly to get print. And you can still review them within Edelweiss.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I am going to go to my home page for just a second. So I didn't want to scroll through all the titles, so I picked a couple ahead of time to show you an example of how you request a title. Hopefully there we go. So they also have shelves, so you can organize whatever you're looking for. So I put a couple titles on my anticipating shelf. Come on, you can do it. There we go. So the first one I wanted to show you is Love May Fail, which comes out next May. And you'll notice that I have a green download review copy button here. That means I'm automatically approved, so I can go onto my iPad anytime and download that copy. And then down here at the bottom is a book called The Immune System, a Dewey Decibel novel, also coming out next May. And this is one where I have to request the digital review copy. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, because I want you to see this is the first time that you click on request a title, you'll get a box like this, and this will be empty. And what you'll want to do is fill in a description. Basically, it's a little biography of you. This is what I do. This is why you should give me access to this title, basically. I do reader's advisory. I do young adult literature, whatever it is. And then if there's a particular reason why you want this book, for example, when I read some of the Scandinavian mysteries, I made a comment about reading all sorts of Scandinavian mysteries and whatnot, and they gave me the book. So then when you're done, you just click on Submit, and now it's been submitted. And I'll go back to my review copies page, or my request copies page, and we're just about done because I don't want to forget LibraryReads. Review copies. Come on, you can do it. Maybe? Well, while it's waiting to come up. Okay, while this page is up here, there's a little thing about LibraryReads, which is what I'm going to talk about next. And once the review copies comes back up, I'll show you how to do it. But in order for, so we'll skip ahead just a teeny bit to LibraryReads while this is thinking. So LibraryReads began in September of 2013, and it's a list of books that are published in that month that are chosen by librarians from across the country. So there it comes. Yay. Okay. So I'm going to go into my downloads, actually. I'll show you my requests in a second, but I want to show you the review tab, or the how to submit a review and how to submit it for LibraryReads. Okay. So while that's still coming up, okay, there it goes. So I saved this this review from before. So earlier this week I clicked on Write a Review. So I'm going to click on Edit. Brings up this little window. Type in whatever you want to type. Choose whatever works for you. Yes, much love, yes, maybe no. And then this is where you can put your information about your profile. And then here you want to submit it to publisher, because then you're letting the publisher know you really did read this book, and here's your review of it. And then this is where you can submit it to LibraryReads. And I'll show you the deadlines for that next. But anytime that a book, you're before the deadline, you can submit it to LibraryReads. So we're going to show that next. So hold on just a second. So I'm going to click on Save. Did that work? Okay, so that worked. And so then I can go in here and say I submitted it on 10/23. Okay, awesome. So requests, just briefly, if it works, you can do it. Okay, anyway, that one title that I picked will show up in my pending. So we'll stop that and come back. We'll skip on to LibraryReads because that's more important. So we just have a few minutes left, so I'll try and talk really fast. But it's really important. So I showed you how in LibraryReads you can submit anything to LibraryReads. They publish a monthly list. So the November 2014 list just recently came out, and it started, like I said, back in September of 2013, so it's just a little over a year old. And other than having an Edelweiss account, which is where you do your review and submit any nominations for LibraryReads, the only other requirement is that you work in a public library in some capacity, whatever capacity that happens to be, or a library system in my case. The audience for LibraryReads list is generally adult readers, but they do have some titles that have crossover appeal, young adult appeal, like Rainbow Rowell's Fangirl and things like that. They do have a newsletter you can sign up for. They are on Facebook. They have a great Facebook presence, I think, and they do a lot of really good things on Facebook. They're also on Twitter. Whoops, here on Twitter. So I follow them on Twitter as well. Once they have a new list, they also have marketing materials, so they have flyers that you can do. They have banners if you want to put it on your website and all sorts of things like that. It's pretty cool. And if you're lucky, one of your nominations might be selected for the monthly list. And then if you're really, really lucky, you might be asked to write the little blurb that goes along with it. And so far, and I looked back since September of last year, and 5 Wisconsin librarians have been featured this way. Paulette Brooks from Elm Grove Public Library, Jane Jorgensen from Madison, Marilyn Sieb from LD Fargo Public Library in Lake Mills, Scott Lenski from Whitefish Bay Public Library, and I submitted one back for last November's list. So it's kind of cool. And then, because they had their first anniversary or their first birthday, they are doing a survey. So they took all of their, whoops, I finished it already. They took all of their nominations and narrowed it down to 25. They took the 25 and now they're narrowing it down to the top 10. So up until November 1st, you can go here and submit your top 10. And then they'll have a list that'll come out in December, I think, for the best of the best, or the highest nominations. LibraryReads isn't a perfect list. It doesn't have a lot of nonfiction titles yet, but there are a few, and it's strictly by nomination numbers. So the book with the most nominations is the winner for that month, and the top 10 are the first are all the winners for that month. It's not meant to be a best of list or anything like that, so the more people that are out there reviewing titles and submitting their nominations to LibraryReads, the better the list gets. And let me go back here. There are deadlines for, I think it's here. Yes, there are nomination deadlines. So for a book that's coming out in February, you have to submit it by December 20th. So if you are reading advanced copies, make sure you look at those dates and then submit your nominations by the deadline dates. It's kind of cool, and it was really fun and an honor to be the one who got to write the little blurb that went with the book. It was kind of cool. So has anybody submitted any? Oh, Jamie, thank you. Actually, I think that was most all, although let me tell you one other thing. So if anybody is on Twitter, I would also highly recommend using on Friday Reads, the Friday Reads or the Friday Listens hashtag and following along with that. And if you are reading any of these books, whether it's something you got from NetGalley or Edelweiss, it's really handy, I think, to put that in there that you got it from NetGalley or the publisher or the author. You often get contacts right back from the author or the publisher, which is kind of cool. And it continues that feedback loop where you are building that relationship with the publisher. They see that you do this and you're more likely to get another copy, get approved for the next copy. So hold on one second. Sorry about that. I think I'm talking too much. So if anybody has any questions, I think that's a great way to do it. And I've loved following LibraryReads since it started. So I don't know if anybody else has any questions or comments on that. Oh, and actually, in my email, I just requested that title on Edelweiss. I just looked over at my email and I got it approved already. So that's how fast it can be.
Wow. Jean, if you have a contact slide with your email.
Oh, yes, I do.
I do. Thank you. Put that up.
Thank you.
I
forgot. Whoops.
No problem. So as I said, Jean will share the slides with me.
There we go.
And her email is on the screen as well as her phone number. She is awesome at this stuff and really loves doing it. So I'm sure if you had a follow-up question, she would be happy to answer that. So, yeah. Anything else, Jean, you wanted to add?
And I didn't show this, but there is a way that you can do a community kind of thing or become friends, if you will, on Edelweiss. So if you're on Edelweiss, you can look for me and you can connect on there as well. But it's just, it's mostly just shows you what other people are reading and commenting on.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, thank you, Jean, for sharing all of this with us. Thank you to all of you who are listening in. Because I like to stick to the time limits, and I know you're all busy, we're going to go ahead and close the session. So again, thank you, Jean. Thank you for listening in, everyone. I hope you have a great Thursday and a great rest of your week.
Thanks, everyone.